Okay. Who are you and what do you do?
Oh, no, who are you?
Oh, I'm Julian Smith.
Yes,
And
famous author.
That's right, famous author.
Famous
Internet
author.
famous. It's not real.
Walks into
It's on the
bookstores,
internet.
signs books,
And then runs.
and then runs away.
Yeah, exactly.
Why are you defacing our books?
But here's the trick, is that as soon as it's signed, they can't return it. So it's like, this is how we work. Okay.
Oh, very
It's the model,
nice.
you know?
Very nice.
So who are you and what do you do?
Well, my name's Chris Heuer, and I started something a few years ago back in '06 called Social Media Club.
All right.
It's now in 170-ish cities around the world. In fact, I just saw a tweet about Kuala Lumpur's next meeting.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm going there next month. So
Are you really?
I think it might be the same thing. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, one of the great things is a lot of my friends like you end up coming and saying, hey, I spoke at your Social Media Club event out in Sydney.
And you're like, I had no idea.
Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But there's so much going on. It's hard to stay on top of. And as we were discussing a little bit earlier, we're at a point of really changing a lot of what we're doing, holding on to the values and the methodologies, but really looking at how can we make it more sustainable. And the reality is that without having profitability, you can't be sustainable. And in fact, I talked to the founder of Skyrock over in France while I was over at Le Web. And we were talking about this, and he has a very interesting approach, a philosophical approach that comes really, I think, out of the humanist movement about raising up individuals against the institutions. And then he was telling about how he, treats these people as celebrities or web stars to get them in. I'm like, that seems at odds to me. Why are you doing this like celebrity thing when you're like a humanist philosophy? And he goes, very simple. The revolution must be profitable if it is to be sustainable.
I like that.
So it's not about this selling out. It's about understanding the laws of physics,
Right. I
and
mean,
gravity, and how does things work in order to make the most.
If you don't pay them, not necessarily for the time, but if they can't live, they can't continue to work on your thing.
And I'm
you
at
know?
that point now where I can barely live.
You're just like, yeah, exactly. You're barely alive right now, actually. Yeah, we needed to put some coffee into Chris before he actually showed up. And
After all that wine at lunch again, Claude bringing our tradition from Le Web here to have a glass of wine at noon for lunch.
Yeah, exactly. You got to keep the tradition going. You know what I mean?
We like that a lot.
So I mean, basically, you get to a point in order to for it to be sustainable. What is it going to take? The individual chapters are doing okay.
Yeah,
right?
well, that's the thing. Look, it can continue to go on as it is, and everything will be fine. We don't have to do a thing. In fact, I could just retire. And walk away, and we could stop doing the stuff we're doing. The website costs whatever it does to host. We could keep doing that. But we really believe that the mission is too important. And the mission is about media literacy. We need to educate more people how to search, how to participate, how to think critically, how to create videos and audio and all this stuff. And we've got this army of people who do have time to volunteer because they have a full-time day job.
That's right.
Or they make a living at it because they're selling books and they're selling training and they're making enough money that they can give away, some of their time to do educational work. And so it is possible, but it's not possible as a full-time job.
Right. That's it.
Yeah.
You have to find those people and find ways to keep them, if they're enthusiastic about it, how to keep them in the movement.
And what that means is somebody has to shepherd. And, of course, what the shepherd does for looking after the flock is he takes all their wool and he sells it at the market.
That's right.
Now, I can't do that, and I don't want to do that. What we want to do, though, is we want to be able to build a core nucleus to let all of the different nodes continue on and to provide more support so that we can build better and stronger nodes. And one of the things we hit upon really from the beginning, but we ignored, was that because everyone was on disparate platforms, because some people were on Ning, some people were on Facebook, some people were on Twitter, some people had a blog, some people built their own websites.
Right.
I mean, all these different groups all over, that the knowledge wasn't being cross-pollinated.
True.
And not only that, but finding it was even harder. We've had at least 20 of our cities do an event on who owns social media in the last year.
Wow. Okay.
But they're not all together in one place because curation takes effort. It takes a professional. It takes time. You have to weave it together into a story. You have to, like I'm doing now with this presentation. I'm about to
yeah, exactly.
It takes hours. So we're looking at how do we do that? What is the because effect? What can we do that will make us money that lets us do these things because of this other thing?
Yeah, it kind of liberates you to do what you need to do. Is the spread based on the fact that the information is free, quote unquote, and that it does the lack of financial sustainability allow it to spread easier, and will it prevent it from happening in the future, or do you think they can work together?
The way that I see it, it's going to work together. There's a harmony, there's a balance, and basically because I got all swept up in this Berkeley free everything movement early on,
All of us did.
Yeah, well, we all did for
Yeah,
years, right?
for sure.
And particularly in the community spirit of it that we came to it with, because it felt like my heart's true calling. It still does. It's just a matter of being able to keep going. That we leaned too far to the free side. We leaned too far to the give everything away side of it. And while we took some memberships, we didn't promote it because we didn't feel we had anything of value.
Right.
So we were waiting to get this new member website on Drupal that we're almost finished with. In fact, if you see it now, it's almost finished, but you can join now.
Okay, cool.
And what we realized
Give
was
the
that
URL.
it's socialmediaclub.org.
Right, thanks.
And so what we're doing is we're really transferring it into legally a traditional membership organization, nonprofit structure. It's a 501c6 in the States. And what that means is it's a member-owned organization. So in essence, we're giving away our intellectual property, all the domains that I have related to this, socialmediajournal.com, Social Media Observer, Social Media Club, of course, and a few others. We're just giving it to the organization and to the members, and then we're asking them to join for $100 US a year.
Which is nothing.
Which is nothing.
Yeah.
And then that money is going to fund programs like what we're doing now with SMC EDU. Right now we have a great volunteer, Yong Lee, in D.C., who is shepherding this new community of professors at universities around the world to create better social media education in schools. Because, believe it or not, these kids coming out of college, they may know how to use Facebook to hook up and find a party, but for organizational purposes and raising money for nonprofits and increasing awareness of a cause and these things, there aren't that many of them who really
You're absolutely
understand
right.
that.
Yeah.
So we've got to teach them more about workforce literacy as well. How to use these tools at work.
And how to use them for their careers and so on, right? Exactly. It's something that when you're 15 years old, you take for granted and you just don't think about it very much, I guess.
Yeah, well, and there's some interesting things, of course, because now the kids are staying private and all that. But the bottom line being is that we have a real need to actually have people in place running those programs. You need to have somebody answering a phone when a teacher calls and goes, I'm looking for open courseware so I can teach privacy issues on Facebook. I need to teach people how not to create a false digital identity and how that can compete with them. Who has a course, who has a class they can use. So all that stuff's going to take money, and we're hoping that we're going to still embrace the origins of our loosely joined sort of ideals, but then just have this little structure here to come back to. I almost think of it as like coloring inside the lines.
Sure.
And there's a lot of people who, when they're given a coloring book, they only go in the lines. But we've started coloring outside from the beginning.
That's right.
But if we want to, we can go back and we can use those lines. We can color in the sky and the sea. Right? We can do a little bit more.
The structure is there.
It's about finding that balance between structured and unstructured.
And there's a lot of models, there's a lot of companies that have been able to do that have been able to figure it out. So I'm confident that you'll be able to do the same. It's but the transition definitely will be a lot of work, but I think there's nobody better to do it than you guys who have already committed a ton of energy, and anyway, your community is with you, and it is huge, so it's good.
Well, it's interesting. It's actually going to be up to them because, we feel that, we know based on our experience with some of the people who joined early, that they're not going to be interested in a formal structure. So there's going to be some groups that, don't affiliate with this new version of the entity, and that's fine because it's personal choice. We're not trying to force it on anything. I'm trying to create a democratically run sort of organization where people can have a say, they can shape it to make it what they want, and change the future to make it what we need it to be instead of what it is.
Yeah, right on. Okay, Chris Heuer, socialmediaclub.org.
Thank you very much.
Go and see them. They are good. You find
and
a
check
local
your
place.